This is the second edition of the Martian Alien Secrets, a book that I published. The reason I'm now analysing it because I was very surprised when I returned to the internet for the original Rocknest panorama, which was placed there in 2013, 1.3 billion pixels. So it was the most photographed alien habitat of any other a location besides Earth. So I was very surprised when, after I sent NASA a copy of this first edition, that was entirely censored. You can't zoom in anymore. Luckily, I found one copy of this on a private server called a Gigapan. So if you just Google that, you'll see all the things analysed. But I use the photos from their white enhanced images. There was two they had on their websites, and these provided superior colour. So there it is there. Now I'll just quickly go back to the original. So this is the publication tool I used. Someone said just quickly publish all these things that I found. So just put in Google Zdenko Musbavic Blur Books, press search. You'll come up to a list of my books there. Now all of these have been allowed to be free view. So that's it there, the recent one. And also the other one I analysed, Apollo 11, when it flew over the moon's surface. It actually went very low for a while, then wasted fuel shooting up again. So when I had a feeling there's something there that needs further analysis, they've airbrushed a few towers, but then I found all the alien structures there. Then there's that cloud in Indonesia, 2010, which had a sticky tube going around it. Then these hatches opened and these two reptilians came out. That was shocking, and it's very hard to believe that one. Now, I filmed the lunar surface using Olympus SP100 EE camera. I hit about 6,000 to 8,000 zoom altogether. Now, this is the only camera I found, and I've updated to a Nikon P900, but all I get is grey and blurry, nothing that good. So, using this camera, I was able to enhance the lunar surface and get excellent color images. So that's all you do. It's quite simple. It's all free view, and I'll quickly take it now to that panorama that's been censored. So this was the original one I analysed. It's the 1 billion pixel view of Mars, and it's quite interesting. But after I sent NASA a copy of the book, as you realise, you can only go a certain distance. So all those things I analysed on the horizon. This was the white, balanced one I used. You can't zoom in anymore. So I was very surprised when this happened, because obviously I can't replicate it, except I found it on a Gigapan. So all those areas I analysed, I can't zoom in anymore, and you used to be able to zoom right in the background. Now I just found one other one, so I was very surprised. There is an earlier version which still has the same thing. It could have a few less pixels, but you can still see the images. So I'll quickly go to that now. Now I found this one still up on the NASA website. So this is the panoramic view. This was downloaded November 2012. And I can still see a good... Let's look at the raw version. This is raw color, so it's not white enhanced. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's the raw version. So that's still available, and that hasn't been censored, obviously. Yes, that's still fine. So obviously the white balanced one is the one I've used in the book. So you just click what view white balanced version, and I think this would be adequate to actually show you all the things that I found similar to in the book. So luckily this hasn't been censored, so let's use this one. So we will now go through the book step by step, and there's one other point. The last 4 years I've actually had very bright pulsating lights over the house, and I've learned to telepathically summon these energy forces or balls of light, similar to Robert Bingham in California. He has film crews and reporters at the a summoning event. So I don't know how this works. So I'll just quickly show you the Instagram where I put the photos. So all you do is, even if you haven't got Instagram, you can use Google on the internet, and I have similar ones to the Foo Fighters. So for instance, I've had the red orb approach me on a summoning, and then when I photographed it retreating, there was a rod next to a very bright opening where obviously that red orb that I had approaching me returned. So this has been happening for 4 years or so. And I analyze also UFOs near military crashes. They look like balloons, but they're not. They're balls of light. There we go there. There's one white one that then changes shape. So first you see it approach you. It's got a tail, then it becomes a beautiful object there. All sorts of things. So the way you would search that, I'll just show you now. In Google, you just put Instagram/e.t_contact, and you just click it, and you'll see all the recent telepathic summoning. So when I say telepathic, you would stand in one spot. I usually use a spot in Sydney. It's a beach, so I can go there all year round. And I just have the camera in a beach bag and just look up and concentrate and wish for their return. And I see the balls of light approach and all other bright white objects can stop above me, and some are very strong, very bright. I've had a creature come as well, so that's on my YouTube channel, which I can quickly show you now. This is the YouTube channel 666 UFO Mister, and you'll see various UFOs that appear, and Foo Fighters near explosions, military disasters, also near 2 of the space shuttle disasters prior to the actual explosions. So, and that's the creature, the alien life form, that appeared in a very bright ball of light over me as well when I was summoning, and it was the closest I had. It was probably a quarter size of the moon, and that creature appeared out of it. So that's there as well to look at. Okay, let's go to the book now, and I'll quickly show you step by step. That's the preview, so it's all free. And on here, obviously, I can return to that panorama that I've still found that's saved on the NASA website, even though they stopped the zoom. So let's just go in now. That's the index, the introduction. Now, first time I've seen something strange is when all of a sudden there was something that looked like a rock, and when I go near that area, there seems to be a trail leading up to the rock. Now, rocks normally don't leave trails, so that's what got me interested. As I went closer, I thought, well, it could be the wind pushed it and there's a trail, but it went zigzag. So I went down, there, and there. Then I thought, what's this thing uncurling into the trail after the trail was left? And obviously there's a blue-headed type object coming out of that perfect hole there, and it looks like a bird's head. There's an eye and then some processes like 2 beaks coming out of there. Now I can zoom in a fraction. It was very bizarre. There it is there. So it just didn't make sense what was going on there. Well, why would that, what looks like a rock, leave a trail? So my interpretation was it could be something that's common in a desert on Earth, like a turtle or a crab that's now crouched below because it realizes there's something behind it, obviously planning to come and attack it. That was my view. So here are the images, and I used a filter. Quickly show you there, and we can return to the original one. So there it is there. I use these various filters, but on that one you see that object looks like a curled snake come up into that path that's been left there. That's the original color there, and that blue, a bird's head type object coming out. It didn't make sense. So then I didn't think of anything else. There it is. The colors I got were perfect. They're fantastic. Look at that. And obviously there's that object that seems to uncoil and come into the pathway after the pathway has been left, and it's a zigzag pathway. So there's a chance this is like a turtle or a crab that's crouched now and pretends to be camouflaged as a rock because it realizes it's in danger. So we'll quickly return to the original part now. So this would have been in this area here. Let's now zoom in, and I'll show you how to find this. I hope they haven't censored it, because we can still obviously see this here. So this would have been the area I recall we had the, let's go back to the original photo. Okay, this is the original landscape there. So we go right down to where we see that ledge there, and it's right behind it. I'll just zoom in for you so it's easier. So there it is there, there's a ledge, and we go behind it and zoom in. So we find that ledge now. This is slightly different. We don't see a copy of the actual Curiosity rover here like on the zoom panorama. So you'd see the actual part of the NASA landing vehicle down the bottom. So could we explain why I can't now find it? We can still find the other things, so let's just concentrate on the book quickly. It's not that serious. So basically, these are my images. Now, this is what caught me next. Right on this other side, the extreme side, which would be right there, I had something pop up that looked to me like it was camouflage. So basically, we have something that looks like a spider crab, with the front legs, and then there's a crab shell. So when you enlarge it, you'll see behind it a smooth trail. Obviously, it uses the feet to pull itself, then the shell actually smooths the trail out. So that could be what I was looking at in the first place, obviously, that crouched and left the trail. There it is there. Then further back, I found this other thing, looks like obviously an object that's moving. There's a tail, there's a head there, looks like a turtle. There's part of the serpent's tail, and it seems to be gliding on the rocks, on the rock surface. So it's very dry looking, like elephant hide. Let's see if I can zoom into that one. There it is there. I'll actually zoom into that panorama at the end. I prefer to go through the book. So then I zoomed in on something that looked like a water pond. It was highly reflective. And when I zoomed in, it had the reflections similar to a water pond, because obviously NASA's tried to tell us there's no moisture there or no rain. Now, the other strange thing was there was something that looked like a zigzag trail used to collect water. And all these very peculiar objects, there it is there next to it, that object and these objects. Let's zoom in. Now that object there is amazing because it looks like it's curled up, but it's still got two eyes there. So it could be something that comes near the water, like a cactus or an octopus type shape, then it curls up. There it is there, two open eyes right there. That's what I thought. We have this thing, looks like a remnant of something there. Then that bizarre object there, which again seems like two horns, two eyes. I'm not quite happy with the capability of that one to be analysed. There's a weird object here, looks like a cactus right there. Then next page, a very peculiar hilly area there. Now here's where things happen that are strange. There are blue-shaped objects that look like machines or hill climbing objects, especially that one. And that one there, you'll see the sharp processes behind it, then what look like little feet there and something sticking up. It just doesn't look like a rock. And when you enlarge it, obviously you see the pointy bit hanging out. Let me go back. There it is there. Again, I'm not happy with the quality of it. We got these tubular processes up the hill here, very dark blue. I'll try to enlarge that if I can. It's a very unusual hill, so that's why I zoomed in. There's too many tubes and round-shaped objects. Here we come to something right on the edge up here. And when I zoomed in closer, it seemed like, there it is there, there seems to be a land bridge with openings behind it, especially there, and where the arrow points, there seems to be an object with some legs. It looks like a grasshopper or a hard exoskeleton creature, a beetle head, and there's a trail left behind it. So I wasn't sure, am I on the right thing there? So I just enlarged it and zoomed in on the head there, and what looks like a foot process. And the openings there have some rods that seem to close it, so maybe it wouldn't allow that creature in. There it is there again. Again, I wish it was clearer, but let's go through it. There it is there again. That's probably the best image I can use. You've got the front feet and the rear ones, and obviously that smooth trail behind it, and what looks like a head, shiny head. So on Earth it would be like a beetle. There's that rod shape that closes the opening. Now we've got something strange. We have an area where it looks like there's a canal built. So when it rains heavily, the water is captured. Now there's an object up there which seems to deflect the water. Then there's an object there. It seems to take the water underground like a collection device. It's a very hard one to analyze. There it is there. So it just seems to be like, I don't think it's accidental those things are there. So during heavy rains, it suits the purpose of collecting water, and the water would be then rushing down there. It'll be deflected on that wall, and it goes probably into that open hole that takes it down to a storage area. Then we've got other things there look like the structures that are actually like a bridge or something similar. There. Again, I'm not that happy with the quality of it. There's that porcupine object there. There's the bridge. I'll try to enlarge it. There's something happening there, especially due to the sharp processes sticking out the back. Again, I wish I could go closer. Here's the object seems to be coming up the hill. Now it's very step-by-step processes coming up, so I could have used this previously to climb up there. And there's a right angle right there. It just seems bizarre, and there's what looks like a head sticking out. It just seems as though there's too many right angles there for that to be a normal rock or surface, and there's that head sticking out. We come to this area where there's a very sharp object sticking up. Again, it could be a rock. Now we see something unusual near a base of that hill there, where it's shady. We see an object there that has two eyes, what looks like two antennas, and again that same curved leg that was shown in the hard exoskeleton creature. There it is there. To me it's unusual because again, using the pink filter you can see what looks like two eyes and curly leg. There it is there. So I was trying to point out the similar things, that curve there. Now it's probably soft skinned, so it hasn't become hard exoskeleton. That's why it's still near the hill where there's shade, and it's safer for it to hide. Possibly. There's tubes sticking up. That object comes up on the hill. This seems to be excavated down there. Seems to be too many excavations in that spot, but it could be natural, so I'm not quite sure about that. Now this is where things get interesting. Near the hill you've got this very strange object and something that looks like it's on a it's gold. There's a silver roof near the blue object next to it, and it seems to have square windows. There it is there. So I've tried to use various filters for that one, but it seems to have square windows, and that object on top looks very silvery. That object has openings as well, so it looks like there's many tubes and very strange objects there. There's a white rod that sticks out of that tube. So I was analysing that tube there, it just seems to stick out very strangely. Again, there's a lot of interesting structures. We've got that one there which has that opening. Now we're approaching this very unusual hill there, and I can zoom into that on the original. It's got arches there, this thing that sticks out from the side there, and it just seems to go up into that structure there, which has an opening like a tower. There are the arches, and the unusual thing is when you actually zoom in on top of the hill, there's an object that seems to be just sitting there like a sentinel. And we go now to this tower. The tower is unusual because when we zoom in, we've got a head sticking out exactly there. That's a high zoom there. So it sticks out, and again, it's got sort of two eyes where two eyes should be. There seem to be a lot of carved objects on this hill. So I was just looking at these objects there on the hill. This is where we found something interesting. It looks like a cave and an object parked at the end of that cave. Right there. So the object next to it seems to be parked next to it. It's camouflaged to look like a rock. That's where I found what looks like two runways. So there seems to be a path that leads next to that. There's the opening like a cave, and there's an object that seems to be parked there that seems to have come down that runway. Again, it was unusual that you have such a opening there. It looks like a cave and an object right next to it. There it is there. There's one more runway next to it. So it's like a smooth pathway, a runway, and there's one there, and there's objects parked at the end. There. So I'm just trying to zoom into that object. That one has a dome on it and sharp processors on the back. There's some objects there as well. That's probably the highest zoom I can do on that. There's a triangular object on that rock ledge. Then we come to these other objects there that just look like there seems to be something there. So when you zoom in, these structures could be rocks, but on the other hand, you've got some with a definite patterns to them. That one. That one seems to be triangular, have an opening. That one has an object coming up. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a platform there, objects coming up. It's very hard to focus in on it. This is interesting. That object there, when you zoom in, looks very metallic. There's an opening there and a tube coming out of that opening. So there seems to be some activity there. There it is there. That was probably the best zoom I could do. Then we have what looks like a water pond there and tubes coming, and this blue type of object. There's an object that seems to be on this platform there with tubes, so I'll just enlarge that. Again, I wish I could go closer. I don't think it's just accidental rock features, so you see what looks like a pond there with water. There's tubes that lead up to it like suction devices. There's some sort of machines or objects there. There are the tubes, what looks like water pond. That's a close-up of these tubes that lead up to the edge. In between the water pond and that blue object, there's some sort of device there. I'm not sure what it is. Again, it could be a rock, but a little bit too many things happening here that just can't be explained by rocks. This is very interesting. When we go into this area here, all of a sudden there's an opening there, and what looks like a hatch opened, and what looks like a very beautiful type of house, a temple object, which I was trying to zoom in on. So my view is they live underground and they come up in these observation towers or areas they could quickly observe the surroundings. There it is there. That's probably the closest I could do. The hatch opens, and there's that object which has too many squares and right angles. This is interesting because it shows you it looks like a cactus formation on that rock. This is way interesting. It looks like a water hydrant. So sideways, there's a pipe sticking out and these what look like very sharp objects coming off the side. Again, could be rocks, but a little bit too much happening there. This is interesting. You've got something happening here, rounded as well. Very flat objects on there. This is interesting because there's too many right angles there. It stops there. It's a right angle. It's like a canal that collects water potentially. So when it rains or something like that, once I see too many squares and right angles, I'm in trouble because it means it's probably intelligent design. There's an object on the hill, and when you look at it, it's got two processes sticking out there. When I analyze underneath it, there it is there, various colors. I see what look like mechanical devices underneath. Or again, it could be rock formations. You got zigzag lines there. That's a very good color processing. There's too many zigzag processes there. It could be a natural rock formation. There's a blue object sticking out of that perfect opening, similar to that blue object we had before. Something unusual here, we have a path, a perfect pathway there, and leads to this object like a tent or a temple or something. So I've just drawn arrows into those areas. And near these, the area down there, we see again what looks like this rectangular object. Here we've got exactly those right angles. They could happen in nature, so I'm not going to dwell on that one. Square with a round object there. This is unusual. Very bright object. Again, nothing special, but very unusual objects. Again, this one's straight with square windows. That was unusual. This was unusual because we got openings there. These objects here are unusual because some look like dwellings. So I'll just enlarge it. Especially those arches there and those openings. And that object with all these rods coming off it. So that's probably a high zoom of those rods. Now again we've got this opening with a blue object sticking its head out. Again, we've seen that 2 or 3 times now. There it is there again, and there it is there. Something peculiar is happening there, I know that. This really blew me away. If you go on this spot here, we've got something that looks like a perfectly designed blue object with an opening. There, it's rectangular, and there's an object there, sort of like 2 heads. I mean, 2 eyes. It just seems too perfect to be a natural object. Now, if they live underground, they could come up, and these are observation areas, and obviously it's got a protection over it, so it won't let rain in. Not that good. There it is there. There's a very peculiar object behind as well. Now we zoom into that object they haven't censored. They've censored all this to the left of it, they blurred it, but this area here, they didn't, so that's what I zoomed in on. And when you zoom in on it, there's a lot of curves and structures in it. Look at that. It just doesn't add up. And openings. We go on the hill, we zoom in, we got those objects there again with openings. We zoom on that hill, you see this tower and a right angle there. Shouldn't be so much of a right angle. Nothing convincing that far yet. On that hill there, when we zoom in, we've got these two towers there. So I'm trying to zoom into those two towers. There's a square one and a tower there. That's probably the closest zoom I can do on that structure. Okay, it's too blurry now. That was unusual because we've got too many straight things coming up, and obviously the rest of the images are good, so that doesn't explain why there's so many pillars or lines happening in that object. We come on that hill there, and what looks like a fort, some sort of fort with a wall on it. Various colors. Now when I zoom in closer, there's a platform there and an opening there. And these bizarre circular objects next to it. There's the opening platform, and there's a square opening there. And there's that dark area opening. And we're zooming into those objects right there now. Circular objects. Let's go back. I'm not happy. I could get closer, but I can't. So there's a round sphere there and some other objects. We go to the side of the hill, and that's unusual. We have an object that seems to come up, and two circular objects further. We look at the objects closer on the hill, and we come up to this peculiar opening, and again they could be rocks. That looks like a perfect pyramid-shaped object. There's something coming out there. That object there is important. It's got square openings on it. There again, I'll try to zoom in, see if you can see those openings there. Nothing special, but there's a little bit too much. Okay, that's interesting because it shows a flat area and an object coming up there. Again, not clear, but unusual lines. This is unusual on the hill. This was from 2015. So it's actually Sol 4073. And this is why it's unusual. When you actually zoom in on this one, this is good. It's got a dome with openings. There's an object coming up and like zigzag white areas. And there's a very bright area coming from the opening. That area looks like it's a surface, but it's very opaque. And there's the opening there. That's a definite opening right there. And those right angles seem unusual. This is an object near the flat rocks. It seems to uncoil, so it could have been that blue object near the water pond. It looks alive. I mean, it doesn't look like rocks. There's a very bright object there coming from that side of the rock. Again, we see that pink object that looks like it's got the leg and two eyes. That resembles that hard surface exoskeleton object there. That was the object that is curled up near the water pond, and that's unusual because it's got like two eyes and two little processors up there. Again, nothing special, but there's just too many unusual things, especially this and this leaving a trail. That's a flat trail behind it, and that one is a trail left by that one. So they could be just normal creatures like on Earth. It's unusual, that object climbing up the hill and that object that has these sharp processes hanging out of it. And that object looks like it's some sort of square opening windows and very metallic type object that covers that area. These were very unusual, especially that object. Now, these are the structures I found on the horizons, especially that temple-shaped object. Then obviously this is a group of those things that have openings like a cave. There's a square sideways opening on that one. And that surface that wasn't censored, I used a purple filter. That is very special there. That just blows me away when I look how shiny that is. And there's that head next to it, what looks like a head. Structures there, that water pond, tubes coming down. And again, some of these things have heads where heads should be. Again, it's unusual that they're blue. It's unusual that these objects seem to come up from these openings. Again, they're not fantastic close-ups. They're the best I can do. There it is again there. Let's go back to the first one. And that blue object there. Then we go, this is very convincing. This is Cape St. Vincent. And you've got these perfectly like constructed walkways down the side of the cliff. Perfect lines. Perfectly square. Look at that. Then you've got this Egyptian type head there that's been carved into the side. You've got these what look like beautiful carvings, flat areas there, which are perfectly flat, like ledges or something similar. Like carvings there on from the rock surface, or it's been dropped and lodged there. Very peculiar ones with right angles. That object that's looks like it's a carving, a slab. This is unusual. It looks like it's a trap door that's hiding something behind and it just opens. So when I zoomed into it, it seems to fit in there as something behind it. There's that object there, a very shiny surface. This is a closer up zoom of that object. There. Let's go back and stop that page folding. There just seems to be something there unfolding. A little bit unusual. There. When I return to that original photo, that's been blurred out. So there's something happening with that object. Then there's that structure on the ground. There's a flat area there. This is unusual. There seems to be an opening there, these slabs. This was just an analysis of the conference with Obama, 2013. And yet the bodyguard there seemed to have a cloaking device. His head changed frequently in every image. And it was just very unusual. Again, is there alien contact? The question here is, this is from a space shuttle. An object appears, an orb, and 3 rays seem to emerge from this side. There's plenty of orbs after the explosion of the Challenger space shuttle, but this appeared 10 seconds before as a white orb, and all of a sudden 3 rays or things come out of it, then it explodes. Now, this was and this appeared during the 2003 Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. This appeared next to it. Now, this is on the Comet 67P, which happens to go to the edge of the solar system and then rotates around Mars. It's a very peculiar orbit. Now, if we look at it, many people around the world found on the original photos these alien structures on top of the comet, especially that one. There's too many right angles and zigzag patterns, and it seems to be sheltered in that wall on the side. That object as well. So there's too many objects on that comet. Openings. Now, one view is the comet could be an improvised spaceship. It's 4.5 kilometers. A jets fire from the side that can change the flow and the direction of the comet, and that was the rumor why that was analyzed, because it changed direction. That could be propaganda. So there's very unusual objects there. But it'd be perfect because obviously aliens could live underground. There would be tunnels there. There would be a gravity. There will be no ionizing radiation can obviously harm the inhabitants. And there is there. It seems like these are jets that are fired. So these are photos. So it could fire these jets to change direction, and it improvises and uses comets. And that could be why NASA could be training their astronauts to land on comets. That as it approached the Rosetta probe, that actually jumped off it and it rotated and it came back. These are other comets that also have these alien devices near them or on them. So maybe that's a very cunning way to use larger asteroids and comets as spaceships. You live underground, there's no chance of any collision with smaller objects to destroy it. And it could explain why NASA is training astronauts to land on comets. And this object appeared above my house, and it had very bright lights on the side, and it seemed to fire lights from the back, especially those two. So I filmed that, and I thought that was very unusual. It looks like the objects there on the Martian surface. These are just photos of the objects on the surface, the two runways and things like that. This was unusual. This was SpaceX, and it's got a dark, rounded object approach it. When it was right over, it exploded. So the reason was a static electricity. And this is similar to the Foo Fighters. They had these dark, round objects. I follow them in World War II. The German planes and the Allied planes, I think. So, and yet I've had the red ones appear above me and things like that. Now, we can still see those objects I found here, the important ones. And all we do is just go into that panorama. That's the important hill. Now, on this hill, we do see that object there. See, I can't zoom in anymore on this one. With the openings and that metallic type surface. And if we do go back, we see that other hill with the arches coming up. So this is that important hill. And this is where you'll see the arches there located and that object there. Here are those arches that look very unusual. But I can't go in closer. And that's that object right on there. There we've got that like tower there, which I zoomed in. There was like a little head there. There's what looks like a sentinel. Obviously this one isn't as good as the one they've censored. And we can find possibly that large creature that looks like a hard-shelled exoskeleton insect further down on here where I found originally. Obviously the images I had from the wide enhanced original ones were fantastic. And if we look at the front cover and the quality of the colors that I had in the original one, it just seems there's too much there to be rocks. So even I'm questioning myself, am I using poor judgment to try to find things that are not there, or are these things actually there? Especially that blue shiny object. It's got a perfect opening on the side. It's a rectangular opening. There's an object next to it that appears a small head, two eyes, shiny surface. Openings there, objects that leave trails. There just seems to be too much there. And the question is, why did they stop the zoom then? This is the back page, so obviously there's too much there, and the color was fantastic in their wide enhanced zoom images.